The year is 1941, the vast sun-baked expanses of North Africa. Allied forces, still grappling with the sheer audacity and speed of the German Blitzkrieg, had begun to capture examples of the enemy's cutting-edge war machines. Among them, a sleek, angular armored car, the Sd.Kfz 222, a symbol of German engineering and tactical prowess. But a routine test by Allied mechanics would soon uncover a shocking vulnerability, a fatal flaw that would undermine its reputation and echo across battlefields from the deserts of Libya to the frozen plains of Russia. Before we continue this incredible story of technology and deception, take a moment to subscribe, like, and share this video. Your support helps us reveal more untold World War II histories. This wasn't just a technical discovery. It was a revelation that would reshape tactical engagements and contribute directly to the eventual demise of a feared German reconnaissance vehicle. This is the complete story of the Sd.Kfz 222 and how its perceived strength masked a dangerous Achilles heel. We'll trace its journey from a clever response to post-war restrictions, through its starring role in the early victories of the Wehrmacht, to its swift obsolescence against hardened Allied firepower. Prepare to discover how engineering compromises made in peacetime had fatal consequences on the battlefield. To understand the Sd.Kfz 222's vulnerability, we must first trace its origins back to the ashes of World War I. The Treaty of Versailles, a punitive measure designed to prevent German rearmament, severely restricted the size and nature of their military. Yet ingenuity, often born from necessity, found ways around these constraints. German engineers and military planners, operating largely in secret or under civilian guises, began sketching out the future of mechanized warfare in the early 1930s. They envisioned a fast, agile reconnaissance vehicle, capable of scouting ahead of infantry and panzer divisions, providing vital intelligence and engaging lightly armed targets. Limitations on tank production pushed development heavily towards armored cars. The goal was to create a light armored reconnaissance vehicle, a leichter Panzerspezwegen, that could operate effectively within these strictures. The Sd.Kfz 222 emerged from this environment. It was built on a robust, four-wheel drive chassis designed for excellent cross-country performance. Its angular, welded steel plates gave it a futuristic, almost menacing appearance. But the critical choice of steel thickness, just 8 mm in crucial areas, was a direct consequence of balancing weight, speed, and the belief that anything thicker would draw unwanted international scrutiny. It was armed with a 2 cm Kwk-30 cannon, a rapid-firing weapon capable of shredding unarmored vehicles and infantry, and a coaxial MG-34 machine gun. Its open-top turret, a common feature in early reconnaissance designs, was intended to provide excellent situational awareness for the crew, but also presented a significant vulnerability to overhead shrapnel and grenades. The 222 was, in essence, a vehicle designed for speed and information gathering, prioritizing offense and mobility over defensive bulk. When the drums of war finally beat in September 1939, the Sd.Kfz 222 was ready. Its debut in the Polish campaign was nothing short of a resounding success. Against an army largely reliant on horse cavalry and obsolete tanks, the 222 proved devastatingly effective. Its speed allowed it to outflank enemy positions, its cannon tore through light defenses, and its angular armor, though thin, was sufficient against standard rifle fire and light machine guns of the era. The French campaign in 1940 further cemented its reputation. German reconnaissance units, spearheading the Blitzkrieg, used the 222 to rapidly probe enemy lines, report on concentrations, and disrupt communications. Its agility was crucial in urban environments and across the varied terrain of Western Europe. The French, reeling from the speed of the German assault, often found their lighter vehicles and infantry patrols outmatched. The 222 was a key tool in maintaining the relentless speed and tempo of the invasion. Even in the rugged landscapes of the Balkans, the Sd.Kfz 222 performed admirably, navigating difficult roads and providing essential forward intelligence for the rapid German conquest. Its design, a product of peacetime limitations, seemed perfectly suited for the lightning war Germany unleashed. For the soldiers operating them, the Sd.Kfz 222 was a reliable, well-armed, and seemingly robust asset, a testament to German military foresight. The notion that its armor might be fatally flawed was, at this stage, unthinkable, masked by the sheer velocity of the victories it helped secure. The crucible of North Africa, however, would prove to be a very different testing ground. In the vast, open deserts, engagements were often at longer ranges, and the British and Commonwealth forces quickly adapted their tactics. More importantly, they were better equipped to deal with German armor than their predecessors in Poland and France. In late 1941, following a desert skirmish, an Sd.Kfz 222 was captured largely intact by Allied forces. It was a prize, an opportunity for intelligence officers and engineers to dissect enemy technology. What they discovered would send ripples through Allied command. During routine ballistics testing, where Allied mechanics test-fired standard infantry rifles at the captured vehicle, they made a startling, almost unbelievable discovery. Using common 303 caliber armor-piercing ammunition, a standard rifle round for the British Lee Enfield, they found that the Sd.Kfz 222's 8mm steel plating, its primary defense, was not impervious. In fact, it was surprisingly vulnerable. The armor-piercing rounds, designed to punch through light obstacles, were cleanly penetrating the sides of the vehicle. Imagine the shock. Here was a vehicle widely considered advanced, yet its core protection could be defeated by a standard infantry weapon. This wasn't a fluke, it was a consistent outcome. The meticulous ballistics testing confirmed it. The Sd.Kfz 222, despite its impressive speed and firepower, had a critical weakness. Its armor, sufficient against earlier adversaries, was simply no match for the upgraded ammunition and weaponry now wielded by the British, and soon the Soviets and Americans. This discovery was a monumental intelligence coup. Let's delve deeper into the science of this vulnerability. The Sd.Kfz 222's armor ranged from 8 mm on the sides and rear to 15 mm on the frontal glacis and turret front. While 15 might stop some infantry rounds, the 8 mm side armor was its undeniable weak point. 8 mm of rolled homogeneous steel armor (RHA) was considered adequate against shrapnel and standard rifle ball ammunition. But the Allies were rapidly developing and deploying specialized armor-piercing rounds. These rounds contained a hardened steel or tungsten carbide core designed to retain their shape and kinetic energy upon impact, concentrating force into a small area to punch through armor. The energy delivered by a 303 AP round, traveling at over 700 meters per second, was sufficient to overcome the Sd.Kfz 222's 8 mm side protection. The result wasn't just a hole, it was often lethal spalling. When a projectile impacts and penetrates armor, fragments of the internal face of the armor can break off and fly inwards at high velocity, along with bullet fragments. This spalling acts like shrapnel inside the crew compartment, turning a seemingly minor penetration into a devastating blow to the crew and internal components. From 1937 to 1943, while other German vehicles saw significant armor upgrades, the Sd.Kfz 222 received only minor improvements. The core design, with its inherent 8 mm vulnerability, remained largely unchanged. This was a critical oversight, driven perhaps by the initial success and the rapid pace of wartime production, but it would come at a heavy cost on the battlefield as enemy technology progressed. The Eastern Front, a grinding war of attrition on an unprecedented scale, quickly exposed the Sd.Kfz 222's weaknesses further. While its speed was useful, the vast distances and often impassable terrain of Russia presented new challenges. More critically, the Soviets rapidly deployed vast numbers of anti-tank rifles, like the PTRD and PTRS. These powerful weapons, firing heavy armor-piercing rounds, were devastatingly effective against the 222's thin side armor. A single hit could cripple or destroy the vehicle, turning a reconnaissance mission into a death trap. Allied intelligence, having uncovered the Sd.Kfz 222's vulnerability in North Africa, wasted no time in disseminating this crucial information. Reports and combat instructions were circulated to British, American, and Soviet forces. This wasn't just about knowing what the enemy had, it was about knowing how to kill it. Tank crews were advised to prioritize these reconnaissance vehicles. Infantry were trained to engage them with anti-tank rifles or even heavy machine guns at close range. What had once been a feared vanguard of the Blitzkrieg now became a known, vulnerable target. German crews, once confident in their mounts, began to face an existential threat from every direction. The tactical edge provided by its initial surprise and speed was rapidly eroding under the weight of informed Allied opposition. The engineering compromises made in peacetime were now having fatal consequences on the battlefield, transforming a technologically advanced vehicle into a liability that put its three-man crew in constant jeopardy. Germany, ever adaptable, eventually recognized the growing inadequacy of the Sd.Kfz 222. While its production continued until 1943 due to pressing wartime needs, efforts were already underway to develop a more robust replacement. This ultimately led to the magnificent Sd.Kfz 234 Puma series. The Puma was a far heavier, better armored vehicle, designed with thick sloped plates, an enclosed turret, and a more potent 5 cm KW-K39L/60 cannon. It was a clear acknowledgement of the 222's shortcomings and a direct response to the increasing firepower of the Allied opposition. Intriguingly, the Sd.Kfz 222 also influenced enemy designs. The Soviet B-64 armored car, introduced in 1942, shared some conceptual similarities. A light, fast, four-wheel drive reconnaissance vehicle with angular, welded armor. While the B-64 had its own distinct design elements, the very existence of such a vehicle highlights the universal need for effective reconnaissance, a role the 222 had initially defined. The Soviets undoubtedly studied captured 222s and adapted the lessons learned, both positive and negative, into their own designs. The gradual replacement of the Sd.Kfz 222 wasn't just about technological progression. It was a testament to the brutal learning curve of total war. The initial compromises for speed and mobility, made under the shadows of Versailles, proved to be a critical flaw when confronted by an enemy that rapidly adapted and upgunned. The Sd.Kfz 222, once a symbol of Blitzkrieg prowess, was slowly phased out, its vulnerability exposed and exploited. The Sd.Kfz 222's story is a microcosm of the larger technological arms race that defined World War II. It began as a brilliant solution to specific problems, excelling in the early, fast-moving campaigns against unprepared opponents. But as the war matured, and as Allied intelligence and firepower evolved, its inherent design flaws were ruthlessly exposed. This vehicle perfectly illustrates the critical difference between the speed of development and the speed of adaptation. German engineers built a vehicle for the world of 1937, but by 1942, the rules of engagement had entirely changed. The very characteristic that enabled its construction, its light armor to save weight and comply with treaties, became the reason for its operational downfall. Its fate was sealed not by the heaviest tanks or artillery, but by the smallest, cheapest piece of anti-tank technology, the armor-piercing rifle round. Today, surviving Sd.Kfz 222s stand in museums, gleaming examples of early war German engineering. They are a testament not just to their initial impact, but also to the unforgiving realities of combat and the value of Allied intelligence sharing. The knowledge gained from a single captured vehicle in the sands of North Africa played a direct role in turning a feared German asset into a vulnerable target, contributing to the Allied advantage in the vital reconnaissance battle that defined the conflict. This is the definitive history of the Sd.Kfz 222, a vehicle whose ultimate defeat was ironically built into its own design.